Welcome back, friends, to Terrorverse TV. It's John Altarelli again, and I'm going to be your host again today. Today, we're going to do a first in a series of little snippets on some constitutional rights. We're going to start with the amendments. So we're going to start today with the First Amendment. Before we get started, let's make sure that you subscribe if you like the content, like, share, hit the bell for notices on new stuff, and of course, provide comments as to how we can improve. What you think about these little snippets that I'm going to do on legal rights. And of course, we do appreciate any of your comments. Again, most importantly, we try to be civil here. We're trying to provide information. We're not trying to get into political battles or anything like that. So let's keep it civil. So let's get started. Jenna's going to put up the text of the First Amendment so you can see the text, and we're going to talk about it a little bit and give you some of the background. So there it is. I'm going to read the amendment so you can get a sense of it. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So there's a lot packed into that First Amendment. So let's start with the first part about religion. First of all, it was ratified on December 15th, 1971, and it was sort of a battle between the anti-federalists and the federalists. Obviously, people who were more for federal government having more power than the states, people who wanted states to have more rights than the federal government. That was a big divide in our country back when the Constitution was ratified, and these amendments did not get into the original Constitution, although there was a lot of talk about it, and they really wanted it to be in, but they needed to get the Constitution ratified, and so they gave up on the amendments until afterwards. And then afterwards, they came in with the first 10 amendments, called the Bill of Rights, and that was really to protect individual rights from the government, to make sure that individuals' rights were not going to be abridged by any laws, whether federal or state. And that was a very important thing, because back in the time of the Constitution was ratified, when it was drafted, as we succeeded from Britain, one of the issues was this autonomy of the individual. And people came here, or at least they didn't come here for that, but when they were here, when they decided it was time to have a country that was going to be based on a republic principles, a constitutional republic, this was one of the fundamental tenets of that. So let's go through sort of the three things that's really in sort of the freedom of religion. So the first part is that you can't establish religion. So there could be no law. That means the government cannot create a religion or favor any particular religion. It doesn't mean that people can't exercise it, because the very next clause says, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So people can practice any religion or no religion. And that is protected by the First Amendment. So there's been a lot of battles over the years over what the establishment of religion is, what constitutes government or passing a law, for example, whether prayer in school is establishment of religion, whether having after-school programs. There's been a ton of debates and battles and legal cases on whether things that are allowed to be in schools or in public places like menorahs and creches and all these things, they have Christmas trees. There's been a battle across time now over whether those, because you allow it on public land, whether that's establishment of religion. I don't think it does. A lot of the cases have found it that way, and I think for most part, there is a certain amount of religion that is allowed to be in the public forum, whether it's public buildings or even in schools. And if you pay attention, you'll notice that when the country was founded, religion was a massive part of it. Everyone practiced some religion for the most part. And religion was in every part of our government. There was prayers, there's in God we trust. I mean, you can go on and on and on to find all the references to religion. It was one of the underlying principles of our Constitution that this country was going to be governed by people who had a ethical set of values and morals that was based on religion. In fact, our legal system doesn't really work if you don't have some sort of underpinning of religion. So that's something that people are trying to extract out of the government, but that's really not the way our country was founded. And it probably, as you can see, as we go down some of these paths where religion is so vilified and the ethics and the morality of religion and what's right and wrong is no longer believed by people, it's sort of leading to sort of a bit of a anarchy and sort of a Marxist system, because that's Marxist systems, require religion to be abolished. And that's sort of not where we want to go. So that's the first part. It's all about religion. You can't establish religion. You can't prohibit it. The next one is speech. So there's no laws that can abridge the freedom of speech or of the press. And so let's stop with those two. So the first one is individual right of speech. And it's very limited cases that you can have ultimately full and free speech. There was a case about, where speech could become dangerous because it could cause a riot or something like that. Let me see what the name of that case was. I tend to forget that. Schenck. Schenck was the case that put that clear and present danger, which is a limit on free speech. So there is some limits to free speech, and some states have passed profanity laws and things like that. But for the most part, free speech is unabridged in America. Although you're seeing today a very big movement to curtail free speech by calling it hate speech, trying to rise it to the level of a clear and present danger. People are trying to say, look, the speech is causing me harm, it's causing me fear for my life, or it could actually get me killed. I mean, I think a lot of that is completely overblown, but that's the only way you can shoehorn it into Schenck and get it to be clear and present danger, and therefore maybe you could get that speech to be prohibited. I don't think we should get on that path, and I think that's something that hopefully we will not, but that's going to be battleground for the next 5 to 10 years, I'm pretty sure. Then back to the press. So freedom of the press, critically important because the press has the ability and should have the ability to criticize the government, to challenge the government. And if you don't have a free press that can do that, then you are going to have sort of a tyrannical government and the ability to, again, we could talk about communism and fascism and Marxism. That freedom of the press is the second thing that goes. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, those are the two that are fundamentals. And if you take those away, you're now going down the path of communism or Marxism. And that was something that was clearly on the mind of the founding fathers, and maybe not in the terms of Marxism, but they certainly understood the conflicts of tyrannical governments, and they were well prepared to prevent that. Then the last part is the right for people to peaceably assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. So you can see that they cannot prevent people from having these protests out in public areas. Their only restrictions are you usually have to get a permit, you have to stay within certain boundaries and the like. But at the end of the day, if you follow the rules, you can petition, peacefully assemble, protest in public areas, and that's another fundamental right. And although I think that there's a bit of too much of that being allowed, to the extent that there's a lot of violence going on, and some persons' petitions peacefully assembling are also incurring on the infringing on the rights of other people. So as long as everyone has the same rights and they can do it peacefully, even if they do side by side across the road from each other, I don't really care. But I think it has to be peacefully, and that's critical. It says peaceably in there, not riots. There's no constitutional right to riot. Okay. And then the last piece is petition the government for redress of grievances. This is really important. So you can go and you can sue, you can challenge the government. Now, this was something that I found to be very interesting. People seem to have forgotten about during the last Trump election, when he decided to challenge the votes in certain states because he thought there was fraud, voter fraud. It is a constitutionally protected right to actually do so. And the fact that he's been sued and he's been challenged, called an insurrectionist and lots of other things, I guess people forgot that the Constitution absolutely, positively gives everyone the right, including a presidential candidate, the right to petition the government to redress grievances. And if you believe that the election was stolen, or maybe not stolen, but at least there was fraud involved, you absolutely should. And it's happened more than once. This is not the first time when Trump challenged it that other people haven't challenged it. And it needs to be challenged. Our election process is really important, and it should be free and clear of fraud, and we should do everything possible to ensure safe and fair elections every single cycle, which means we should audit anything that's close. We should get full access to the records. And that has not happened. In several states, they haven't done that. I think Wisconsin's still withholding some of it. I think Georgia might be withholding some of the records. So these are not good things. That should be open to the public. It should be open to anyone who's a candidate. They should have the right to verify that the election was exactly the way it supposedly came out. So that's sort of the end of the first little snippet on the First Amendment. I hope it was useful. We'll try to do these from time to time on all the other amendments, because I think the first 10 amendments are really important. Everyone should understand them, and I don't think that they do, because they're just thrown around as the First Amendment. The First Amendment, as you can see, has a lot of pieces to it, and it's a lot more than just freedom of speech or freedom of religion. So I hope this was helpful. If you want to put any comments in there, if you want to ask any additional follow-up questions, I'll try to do that. And I hope this was helpful and educational. And we look forward to the next little Terraverse educational snippet. Thank you very much. God bless.